All right. Thanks, Brooke. You're going to let me share my screen, correct? There you go.
Correct. Yep.
So give me 1 second, folks. Let me know when you can see my screen, and then we'll move forward. We good?
Yep, I can see it.
Oh, beautiful picture there, isn't it, Brooke? So I want to thank everybody for joining us today. First and foremost, I want to hope that everybody is safe and well. What today starts is a series of webcasts that we are going to offer regarding the journey of creating a UX1 experience within your organization for your users. So as we go through these exercises and as Dan presents, his demonstration, if you're capable within your organization to follow along, by all means, go ahead and do so. But the series is meant to be a building experience of how we can take the technology today in JD Edwards and how we can help you as your organization and your organization start to consume all of this technology so that you can actually begin to thrive and create a larger experience, not only for your users, but even the market share within your organization. So I want to start by talking a little bit about how it all began, right? It all began back in March of 1977, 43 years ago in Denver, when Jack Thompson, Chuck Hintz, Dan Gregory, and Ed McVaney decided to start a company that can support people's businesses and the way we need to do business. So JD Edwards was formed by creating just JD Edwards based on the names of the individuals that started the company. Back in 1977, I was fortunate enough to still be part of the organization when the company went public under JDEC. I was still around in June of 2003 when PeopleSoft came knocking at the door and they wanted to buy the company. And when Oracle found out, they got a little bit upset and they decided to launch a hostile takeover for PeopleSoft, but they did not want the JD Edwards product. They thought it competed with their own Oracle product. So when they launched that takeover bid for PeopleSoft, they wanted to strip JD Edwards away. Fortunately for me, fortunately for a lot of us, that didn't happen. And Oracle, when they purchased PeopleSoft in 2005, they kept the JD Edwards product line, be it both the World and the XE product line. And as of today, Oracle, it's one of the top 5 revenue generators within the Oracle product set, and they continue to sell and support not only JD Edwards, but also the Enterprise One World product as well. So let's have a little bit of fun to start and a little bit of trivia. I said it started in 1977. What else happened in 1977? Well, I was around and young enough to remember Billy Bear, right? So we had, the launching of Billy Bear. Unfortunately, that went to the wayside. In 1996, JD Edwards introduced their configurable product called One World. What happened in 96? My friend Elmo was introduced, and he's still around kicking and larger than ever. In September of 1997, when Edwards went public, what happened? We had the introduction of the Palm Pilot. I still have mine, but it's nowhere near as valuable as my iPhone. So Palm Pilot came and it went. Back in fall of 2000, when the product was rebranded as One World XE, USB drives were introduced. So you could see that they've been around for about 20 years. 2003, when the acquisition happened, what happened? That was the last time a Concorde took flight. A very short time frame for the Concorde. 2005, when Oracle purchased JD Edwards, what happened? We had the Xbox got introduced. Look at how far gaming has progressed in the last 15 years. 2012, when application 9.1 came out, what happened? We had Hurricane Sandy. It's hard to believe it was 8 years ago. That's when the whole eastern seaboard of the United States had to hunker down for the storm. 5 years ago, when application 9.2 came out, 5 years ago, two things happened of major importance. The first thing, we had Deflategate. Found out that Tom Brady and the New England Patriots weren't as really good as they should be. But more importantly, more distressing for me, was that Pluto was no longer considered a planet. So that bummed me out a little bit. And last but not least, right now in 2020, 925 tools, 925 applications. What's the big thing? The fact that Elon Musk now is launching U.S., astronauts with U.S.-based aircraft into outer space. So it just goes to show you, I just wanted to do this to show you that while you think 43 years is a long time, a lot of things are coming and going, but yet JD Edwards is still there. JD Edwards is still thriving. So look at this chart and say to yourself, where am I? And more importantly, when you look at this chart, look at how often the product was being improved, and how often new types of applications and things were coming out. Now, if you're on 9.1, that came out 8 years ago, right? So if you look at the timeline from then, 9.1, 2012, 9.2 came out in 2015, but Oracle made the decision to say, wait a minute, 9.2, let's stop this major release stuff. Let's now look to just get this continuous delivery, this availability of implementing new tools and new applications and giving those to people. And a couple of years back, Lyle Ekdahl said, okay, now we're going to support it till 2030. But guess what? They changed their mind. And they said, now we're going to support 9.2 through 20 of 31, another 11 years. Why is that important, and why am I stressing this? If you as an organization are on applications 9.1, you're done. You're done in the sense of the support that we're going to see in a minute. So Oracle, back in 2015, when they started 9.2, they said, hey, you need to upgrade to the 9s. You need to get off of XE. You need to get off of the 8 releases. You need to go to the 9 releases. Why? Because we're going to allow you the ability to upgrade in 100 days or less. We're going to start building in tools and technology where you could turn around and you can simplify your upgrade. We'll no longer overwrite your custom code. We'll let that come across in kind, so that you could turn around and start to introduce things like the Internet of Things, and Orchestrator, and then other tools and technology, so that you can empower your users to become citizen developers. You can have them have low code, no code type of things that they can do versus the IT department, so that you can get to what? This final UX1 experience that's been around now for the last 4, 5, 6 years. So we need to understand, when we look at this chart, what release are you on? How old is that release? And you need to move forward, and you need to get at least on 9.2 and some of the latest tools release. Why? Because your support is done. If you're on 9.1, your support, even if you purchased extended support, is done. Okay? And what do I mean by that? When you purchased Oracle JD Edwards and you bought one of the release levels, you get 5 years of premier support from day one. If you want, you could have paid more money and gotten an additional 3 years. And then once that 8-year period is over, you start to fall into sustaining support. So I have a lot of clients that say to me, Dan has a lot of clients that say to him, why do I have to get to a later release? I'm on sustaining support, and that lasts forever. Well, it does, but you're not getting any new updates. You're not getting any critical patch fixes. You're not getting new security alerts. You're not getting, enhancements to the product. You're not getting statutory or regulatory updates. You're not getting the upgrade scripts to move you seamlessly one release level to another. You're not getting the fact that Oracle certifies the product anymore with other third-party SaaS-based systems or other third-party systems like Vertex or DSI or RF Smart, nor are you going to get certification for new Oracle products. So just because you have sustaining support doesn't mean you're getting the benefits. So as I stated before, Oracle said, if you're on release 9.2, we're going to support it now through December of 2031. And you notice 9.2, the new application release just came out a couple of months ago. So you have tools release 9.2.5, application release 9.2.5. So Oracle's mission, Oracle believes that they need to keep JD Edwards strong, and they need to keep JD Edwards in the forefront by addressing three simple pillars: simplifying it, optimizing it, and transforming it. So when you look at JD Edwards, what they're trying to say to you is, we are not going to remove and we are not going to take away anything. If anything, we're going to make it stronger. We're going to make it better. We're going to turn around and we're going to focus on application optimization. We're going to focus on digital transformation of your business, as well as system automation. Why? Because they want to protect your business and your business investment, but more importantly, they want you to improve your business. And as Brooke said, they want JD Edwards to be your market share expansion machine. They want your business to be future-proof, knowing that any new technologies, any new things that are coming out in the marketplace, your ERP product already has that built in. They want to transform your business so that you don't have to keep doing repetitive, mundane tasks. They want your processes to be more automated and more reliable. They want you to be able not to rely on IT to develop things. They want you to be able to have low or no code development for your user interface. Most importantly, with Orchestrator, they want that to become your integration tool of choice, to be able to integrate your third-party products, your cloud applications, anything else, so that your JD Edwards system isn't the bottleneck to your growing your business. Overall, they want to have your system be fully automated so that you can efficiently run and maintain your enterprise by having a best-in-breed infrastructure. And most importantly, and you're going to see this in a minute, they're doing all of this by introducing their continuous innovation model. So, application optimization, we've talked about that. Protect your business. Any kind of legislative or regulatory compliance, be it at the big level globally or in the country or within your own municipality or maybe even within your industry. They want to be able to provide you an application that meets the demands of all of those things so that your business is protected. At the same time, though, they want to address the pain points that users have as far as entering information, reconciling information, things of that nature. They want to make your business processes more streamlined, more reliable. All of this together is going to future-proof your business as long as we're committed to this continuous innovation and adoption that Oracle is putting out there, okay? When we talk about digital transformation, and again, all of these things are important because in this series, when we start building series, the next series and the series after that, we're building and showing you how all of these things I'm talking to are coming into play to help your organization become better. So when we talk about digital transformation, today it's the user experience, right? Getting that interface and making it more seamless, more palatable to your users, extending it to your mobile applications, things like that. Also, putting in chat bots and some artificial intelligence augmented intelligence so that you as a user don't necessarily have to do everything. Let's automate some process. Let's shrink the processing time of data from going to point A to point Z. Let's eliminate a lot of manual steps and reduce errors by automating these things with Orchestrator, with form personalization, with a bunch of other real-time activities. Let's be able to integrate my entire enterprise, not only within JD Edwards, but let's be able to integrate outside and be able to have an end-to-end process, not only between your users internally, but even your customers and your vendors. Doing all of this with a no-code, low-code type of product that quickly responds. And lastly, automating your system. Let's make sure that your enterprise infrastructure is able to be the lowest cost option possible. Let's make it such that if you decide to move to the cloud, you're not losing functionality. You're not losing capability by moving it off premise. Let's make sure that these common IT activities like package promotions and other things, let's make sure we can efficiently run, maintain, and process them. Let's move away from a fat client OMW to a web-based OMW process. Let's make sure that we can easily stay current and leverage all of these new capabilities and technologies and help transform the business process. All right? So think about what I showed you the very first thing. 1977, JD Edwards has started. What is it? It's a traditional ERP. It's a transactional system. You put information in, you run a report to get information out, you have to do some analytics, whatever. But no, it's moved forward now. Even before the acquisition of PeopleSoft, Ed was changing JD Edwards. He was looking at things like making it a digital platform. Well, now all of a sudden, when Oracle got it, Oracle now moved it into the supervised ERP realm where it's able to take robotic process, it's able to do a bunch of other things, all because we have to move toward an intelligent ERP system. And in the past, no more than 6-8 months ago, people thought, hey, we're not there yet. But we are. If you look at the capabilities of JD Edwards, we are able now to do that machine learning and assisted or automated decision making machine to machine. We're able to have JD Edwards learn and be able to say, if this event happens again, this is what I need to do. You need to get current. You need to stay current. You're being code current, however, is not what's referred to as continuous innovation. On those earlier slides, I showed you that one of the pillars that Oracle is looking for is a continuous innovation model. Continuous innovation means Oracle is delivering you the tools and technology and applications you need, but you need to adopt that within the organization. It's only when those two things are combined that your organization is considered in a continuous innovation model. So Oracle's going to deliver product on some kind of cadence, right? New functionality, new technology. They may do it quarterly. They may do it, as just a singular thing, or they may do it as a cumulative thing. But they're going to have a regular cadence of delivery. What you need to do is you need to take that. You need to look at it, examine it, understand it, figure out if it needs to be embedded in your organization, and implement it within your organization. Now, you don't have to do it on the same cadence that Oracle is sending it out, but you should not wait a year, 2 years, 3 years. Granted, 9.2 is going to be supported through 2031, but if you remember that other chart that showed all the little dot releases coming out and everything else, theoretically, that's still happening. All these little dot releases are happening, but the core foundation of Edwards is still on 9.2. So make sure you adopt continuous, innovation. So what we're going to start showing you today, Dan's going to start showing you today, is creating a UX1 experience. And what you have to understand by that is this. JD Edwards is like an onion, right? You have what the user sees and does. That's the outside of the onion. But when the user goes into an application, they're actually performing something, and there's rules and technology behind the application that say, hey, move the data here, validate this, do that, whatever. But those applications in the past were pretty static. You know, granted, you had processing options, you could create new versions, whatever. But if you wanted to see the data differently or present it differently, or if you wanted to add another field or whatever, you couldn't do that. Why? Because the tools and foundation layer were the things that controlled all of that. This UX1 experience journey you're going to go on today is going to talk about these tools and foundation things. They're going to talk about the infrastructure tools, the user-defined objects that now help you get rapid time to value, lower cost of ownership, but more importantly, this configuration and personalization of UX1. All right? That's what we're talking about, these UDOs. They're the key components of this whole UX1 experience. So what are they? There are things like queries. There's things like Cafe One and Watchlists, compose pages, and form personalization, which is different than a form extension. There's changing your grid from a table view to a list view. There's the Enterprise One search. There's Orchestrator, Orchestrator Studio, notifications. All of these UDOs help build upon UX1. And this is what we're going to do in our series. We're going to start with some, and we're going to keep building and building and building till we get to the final UX1 experience. And we're going to start today with queries and watch lists, and we're going to build them and move on. Now, I said earlier that you could follow along if you want to in your own environment. However, you have to understand that all those UDOs you just saw, when Oracle delivers them, they're locked down. They're secured. You have to be able to have access to them, and that's done by your administrator. So unless you have access, you're not going to be able to create or share or modify. But if you do have access, access is granted on one of those levels, right? And then once Tom creates it, I can say, wait, I want to share it with Brooke, and I can ask for it to be approved. And then it goes through the administrative cycle, the life cycle, and if it is approved, then Brooke gets to use it too. So just remember, if you see something that we ever show you, and you're on a later tools release, and you say, hey, I don't see it, you don't have security to it. So we're going to start with queries and watch lists. We're going to talk about search and build searches. We're going to do form personalizations and extensions. We're going to do Cafe One and compose pages. We're going to throw in one view reporting. We're going to talk about orchestrations and notifications. And we're going to keep building and building and building till we get to our one customized user platform. Okay? So, question becomes, how are we going to get there? We're going to get there because we're going to let Dan show us how to get there. So I'm going to stop sharing, Dan. I'm going to let you take over.
All right. I'm not sure why I got some blurry pictures, some funny pictures, but whatever. That's all funny. So, all right, I'm going to share my screen.
Well, I think one of them was taken after you were drinking. So.
Oh, well, it's entirely possible. All right. So let's jump on here.
So grab the screen and.
All right. You should be able to see my screen. I should be an Oracle screen or Enterprise One. Do you see that?
Hang on one second. I'll let you know. I don't see your screen yet, Dan. Oh, there you go. You're starting. So hang on. Yes, you are. There you go. You're good.
Okay, good. So we want to talk about a couple things. We're going to do 3 queries and 3 watch lists based on those queries. You can't have a query watch list without a query because it's kind of important to have that. So I'm going to jump in. We're going to talk about the first one we're going to do. I'm using a couple examples from some prior clients we had. These are just simple ones. I've got them in sales order. So if you guys have got sales order entry available, I have a little menu here. Let me jump out advanced things. All right, you guys can see that, I hope. So jump into inquiry. Of course, everyone knows, JD Edwards brings a gazillion different things in the column. I can't stand all that unless you are using all of those and secondaries and times and stuff. That's fine, but most of the times I do not need that. So I kind of create my own little view. Let's do a quick little find here. So one of the things that we're trying to do is just to identify some back-ordered sales orders that are finished goods. Now, you'd probably say, well, what's the big deal? Well, it's not just for the person in customer service, but they got to answer why is their stuff not gone. But sometimes it's a leg up for other departments too. You can set one of these questions up that people are asking you for them to answer themselves. That's great. So they might be able to get stuff. Instead of waiting for MRP to run on Wednesday night, they can actually see that on Monday afternoon, all these things are back ordered because there's no quantity on hand. And, now they can get the order moved faster. Little things like that. So let's just use this as an example. I'm going to try to look for sales order lines that are back ordered that are finished goods. So pretty easy to do, right? So, we've all done the query by example at some point. So I'm going to actually leave my order type open. All right. And I'm going to go for my last status. I'm going to set it up here and then we're going to do it as a query. Okay. The last status I want to do is, let's do it as a query. Let's do it. So these little buttons up here are driving what you're doing. So in this case, I'm going to create a query. This is a manage queries. And we're ultimately going to go over here to the little flag that says manage watch list. But right now, let's start with queries. As you can see, I've got nothing up here of personal, but I'm going to go create one right now. I'm going to create a query, right? And I want to run one selected. And if I want to, I can actually run it, set it as default. We'll talk about that in a moment. But when I open this up, if you notice, all these query by example lines have a little plus in them. Okay, so any of these things I can say, oh, you know what? I want to talk about my last status. I want it to be greater than 899. So these are a little bit different than before just QBEs, right? You got actually things you can actually put in here now, instead of an exclamation point or greater than. So I want to do, in this case, I want to do greater than 899. So we know it's something that's in the 900s, right? And I also want to look at my next status. And I want that to be, not equal to 999. So I don't want it to be closed. And now I got to figure out I want to talk about my finished goods, right? So finished goods, I've got in category code 5. Gee, is that here somewhere? Yeah, it's way down here. I don't need to have that showing, but click category 5. I think it's 357. My finished good. If I don't know, I can just click the query or the find. And let's save that. Let's give it a name. We're going to call this finished goods on VO back order. Okay, just do a quick little find here. There's my stuff. So let's close this up. Save, close. So now I've got a query up here. And if I do a find, got myself 62 of these bad boys out there that are back ordered and are finished goods. I look over all the way over here. I think should be 357. They are. So life is good, right? So we've got the first query. Let's create another query. Let's identify open sales orders for finished goods that are old. They've bypassed their expiration or their requested date. So let's go back up here. Click on Manage Queries again. We'll do a create. Okay, and again, everything lined up again. All the little dots or little pluses came back in. And if I had something in here already in the query by example and I want to create it, it would bring it in. So if you go through the trouble in putting all those things in, you can do that. In this case, I want to see my next status is not equal to 999. And my requested date, I'll find my requested date. Okay, this is an interesting one. Is less than minus 365 days. And again, I need to get my category code 5. You can do not just 365 days, you can do, less than 10 days or something like that if you want. Where's my guy? Pass it, there it is. So save that, and we're going to call this one finished goods, old, I'll put it, old finished goods. What do we say about that? Call that that. Oops. Why is this not working?
I think, Dan, you have to put plus or minus. So you have to say
Oh, I got to do it here. Sorry.
minus. Yeah.
Sorry, I got to do it here. I'm sorry. I tried to put it in the hard way. You're right. Thank you.
Say okay. Yeah, say okay.
There it is. I can do today minus 1 day if I want, whatever. I just put a year up.
Well, our data is slightly old.
Yes, slightly. It is the demo data, so we've never played around with that. So this is going to be finished goods, old finished goods. Let's do that. So don't do the mistake I usually do. I try to always put parentheses or punctuation in there. You just can't. And lastly, we're going to do one more query out here. First of all, let's do this one. Old finished goods, see what we got out here for a find. Should have a crap load, 247 of them. Let's do one last query, and then we'll start doing some work. Trust. Okay, so this one we're going to see potential sales orders where there's no price. Okay, so let's create a brand new one. We're going to go to create. Again, everything comes out here. So we're going to go, we don't want kits on this one. Okay, and this is generally a, you really wouldn't run into this, shouldn't run into this because you should have prices on everything you have, but if you've got some EDI stuff coming in and maybe an old item or something they may have taken, disabled, whatever the case may be, it's nice to have them out here, right? So one of the things we want to do is take our line number. We want to have a whole number. Let's do it as one so we just don't get kit lines on this one. Okay. And we're also going to go status is less than 560. Let's see our what is less than? Jesus, there it is. Less than or equal. Let's do less than or equal. And I want to also do the price. I want to make sure the price equals 0. Yeah, let's save this. We're going to call this items with no price. Okay, so these are our examples. Let's see what we get for that one. Oops. So click on the click. Let's do it. See what we get for this one. Shows I can control it all from right there too. So we got 52 of these. All right, so let's close this up. Okay, so our next step is we're going to create a watch list for all these too. It's great that we've got this because I can answer questions anyone has. What are my back-ordered finished goods? No problem, I got that, right? But what if you wanted to share this with somebody? Why would you? Or what if you're doing other things and you just want to keep an eye on this? That's where watch lists come in. So you can have this watch list for yourself, a personal one, which is great. If you want to have this shared, you can actually share the query and the watch list to other groups or other individuals. Again, that's really good. Now, I'm going to use an example. again, like I said, we had procurement people needed to see the back orders before MRP ran, just so they could get a leg up on it, right? Well, they couldn't have access to sales stuff. So what they did is they created a lockdown version where they can just see everything. No, they couldn't do any add, change, or deletes, but they could do an inquiry. And they got that watch list and they could see that screen from there, just what's available. They couldn't change it necessarily. They could change the inquiry a little bit, but they couldn't change anything on the screen. They couldn't drill into anything. So it's pretty handy for that. So let's go, starting at the top, finished goods on back order. Over to our watch list. Little flag. Looks very similar to the other one. But let's give it a little description. Finished goods. Back order. You don't have to use all those words. You can actually do whatever you want. So we've got a couple things out here that we could look at. A warning threshold and a critical threshold. And what that's going to do, it's going to just either highlight it or it's going to make it bold and highlight it. Otherwise, it's just going to give you a number out there. So if there's like, if I wanted to set this at 20, set it at 20. Let me see where I want to do that. Oops. Oh, I just messed my thing up. Set that at 20 and make my critical at 50. Okay. So it's again, if I can pick and choose what query I want to use, I can use the same name if I want, or I can create a new name for it. I can save it. It brings over the name already, but I can change the name if I want. Click OK. So what that did just by doing that is now I have a watch list out here that's personal. It's not saved with anyone else, but it's personal. So I have that. Let's go create another one. And if you want to make this right, you should do it with a query, so do it in order. So items on price in this case, items no price. Okay, what are my warning thresholds here? Okay, so I may want to have 50 and 200. Okay, I'm going to open up these. Let's see, this items on price. If I open this up here, there's a couple things out here as well. How often do you want this to refresh? An hour is typically fine. You know, max records return, you really don't need more than 200 probably, because it will give you the flag anyway and let you know there's an issue out there. Some people have actually done this where it's like every 15 minutes they want it to refresh because they've, you know, Amazon type shipping type stuff where they're getting things in and out really fast. So it's up to you how do you want to do that. But an hour is usually a pretty good start. So we'll save that. And we'll do the last one here in a second. And our last one is our sales orders where there's no price, right? No, this is no price. So we're going to do finished goods that have exceeded the requested dates. That's our next one. Take that one. A couple old finished goods. Old finished goods. Brought everything in. A couple old finished goods. All right, and let's put our threshold on this one as 0 and 10. Okay, so now after I did all this, I'm going to actually click on this watch list flag. If you notice, I've got the 3 I just created out here, and I brought them in here, right? So I'm going to actually get out of the customer service screen for a second. And still notice this is on here. And let's go to procurement screen just for grins. So you can see I'm totally out of sales order. The nice part about this is if I click this flag from anywhere, I can see these, and if I drill into it, it's going to bring me right back to customer service screen. So it gives me a chance to see what I'm talking about, look what I'm looking at, and you know, if I have to extract stuff, I have to react to it, I certainly can. So that, my friend, in a nutshell, is your queries in your watch list. So you can click on any of these and it'll take you right back and it'll fill in all the stuff. So 247 of them, just like you did with the query. It's still using the query based on the watch list.
Mhm.
So there it is. That's in a nutshell. That's the first ones we're going to do. And again, these are all things that you probably have these already or thought of doing some of these already. Because I always tell people, if you've got a question that you need to ask or someone's asking you, set up a query so you have the answer. Now, it's also nice to have like a watch list that you can actually identify. But if you have 150 watch lists, well, that just loses its then everything's a priority, right? It's just the same. You don't necessarily need 150 of them, but the ones that you really need to keep an eye on, or the things you want to let other people see or notify, that's what's a great use for that.
And to your point, Dan, that's a good point because you're in purchasing and you're doing something in the application.
Mhm.
And next thing you know, somebody IMs you and says, hey, but what about these back order lines or whatever? You
Mhm.
hit the watch list icon, find that watch list over the query that answers that question, click on it and launches the application right away.
Right.
So, people always used to complain, hey, multi-clicks, I got to get out, get back in, I have to do this other stuff. Now you could see even the navigation aspect of it is so much more seamless.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And one company in particular, I mean, they had a 3PL that they would, MRP would kick off all the transfer orders for, but if they could transfer from store to store, they were doing that in the afternoon, and then it was happening that evening. They were getting it instead of it starting the next day, So they really cut off some time and saved themselves some time and energy and aggravation. And their customer sat obviously improved for that. So,
Great.
good stuff.
All right, man. Appreciate it, Danny. If you can let me grab the screen again. And
All you.
oh, you're the man. So let me know when you see my screen again, and we'll finish up. Am I good?
Yes, you are now.
Thank you, sir. So thanks for that, Dan. What we want to do now is I want to mention to you that things don't remain constant, right? Industry best practices, your customer requirements, third-party applications and modifications, job roles, things don't remain constant. They're constantly changing. You need to be in a continuous innovation mindset. Now, based upon what we are showing you today and going to show you moving forward, it's all those UDOs, it's Orchestrator, it's a bunch of other things. Organizations sometimes don't either have the bandwidth or the skill set or the capability to manage and consume and do all those things. During the webinar series, we'll be offering you discounted pricing on things like Orchestrator planning. How can I use Orchestrator as my integration tool? How can I use Orchestrator instead of EDI, right? How can I use Orchestrator to send notifications back and forth to people? And if I have orchestrations, but I want GSI to manage them, let them come in and manage it. On the flip side, all those UDOs and how to create a UX1 experience and things like that. If you want us to help jumpstart your organization by creating some of those things, again, we'll give you discounted pricing for us to come in there, work with your team to say, geez, Tom, I want to create this type of experience. I want to create a back order. I want to create a no price order. I want to create watch lists and do all this stuff. We'll come in and help you. So GSI, we have recorded webcasts. This will be one. We have newsletters. We have a resource center. We conduct workshops every month, be it Orchestrator or UX1. We have a YouTube channel. Go out there, see what you need to get and do to continually innovate your organization. Use our blog. Go in and communicate with other people in your industry, outside your industry, see how they're using things. If you have an issue, go to ERP Talk and send us a note where a human will answer your question, right? Tom, how can I do A, B, C, and D? Last but not least, we're on all forms of social media. So turn around, keep up with us, let us know what's going on. So I noticed while I was in there, and Dan and Brooke, I'll ask you to look if there's any more, but I noticed that there were a couple of questions. One was, what does this whole UX1 initiative, low code, no code, mean for a developer that's in my organization today? It does not mean you're going to be replaced. Oracle does not see a way to displace a JD Edwards developer. However, what we're doing and what Oracle is doing is saying, wait, there's true things a developer should be concentrating on, of which personalizing a form shouldn't be one of them, right? Nor should developing a query be one of them. So what we're doing and what Oracle is doing is they're streamlining the responsibility of individuals and making their job description more in line as to truly what they should be doing. The other question that I noticed is that in the past, you needed to have one view reporting in order to do watch lists. Now, the individual that asked that question, it goes to show you how long ago it's been since we've been seeing and understanding the technology in JD Edwards. That used to be true until about 3 years ago. About 3 years ago, Oracle said, wait a minute, watch list is going to be included with the tool set. You no longer need to buy one view in order to get a watch list. So the reason I'm pointing that out is because the tools and technology, the UDO, user-defined objects, are changing and increasing so much, so quickly, and Oracle is constantly adjusting their policies that it's important to stay on top of all these things. Now, you can come to GSI to ask for the changes. You can go to a website like learnjde.com, right? You can try and navigate the Oracle site and get the answers. Either way. Are there other questions that are out there, Brooke and or Dan?
The ones I saw. I think that's it.
All right. So
yes, there's a new one here. We're currently on 9.0, doing to upgrade to 9.2 to get to the UX1 experience. Well, mostly. You still have some queries, I think, in 9.0. I'm not sure you can do watch list from 9.0. There's a lot of things that we're going to be showing going forward you can't do a lot of.
Exactly. And that was my last point, Dan. I mean, if you're on application release 9.0, tools release 9.0, a lot of this stuff did not start to happen till tools release 9.0.2.
Right.
So if you're on this webinar and you're seeing things and hearing things we're talking about that are piquing your interest, you need to go back to your organization and say to them, what tools release are we on? What application release are we on? And if they say for applications you're less than 9.2, right away you should be saying we need to upgrade because you're off support. If they say, oh, we're on applications 9.2, but we're on tools 9.1, well, yeah, you want to upgrade your tools because a lot of the things we're going to talk about, a lot of the things you saw on that slide that showed UDOs didn't come out until tools release 9.1 or later. So,
okay, we got one more question, Tom. What's the impact of the watch list on performance? Well, it all depends on your query. It's really just a query that gets refreshed, so if you've got a query that's wide open and it's going to run for, half an hour, well, that's going to impact the performance, obviously. But if it's just a simple one, looking for a couple hundred lines or something, it's probably not a big deal.
Yeah.
Unless you're running something wide open, but you're doing it as a query also, so you would have definitely said in your query that's not going to work, right? So,
well, and there's another part to that too, right, Dan? That's a true statement.
Yep.
The other part to that is if you have 10 million records and you go back to 2002, why are you keeping all that data? Why aren't you archiving and purging? Because you're making your overall system performance worse, forgetting about the queries and running things wide open. But,
okay,
that whole question.
One more from Lori out there. where she's on the WSJ screen looking for errored UVEs, but the watch list button is missing from the screen. Well, there's probably, it's there, it just has to be activated from your CNCs. You're on 924, so you certainly should have all that. It just hasn't been released. A lot of these UDOs are there, and CNC has to turn them on for you to have access to them, or security, or whoever's doing that for you.
By all means, if you're on tools 924,
You should have all this.
your screen should look like Dan's if they gave you access.
Right. And when is the watch list query refreshed? It depends on whatever you set in the inquiry. If you remember, there was a timing out there, and I said 60 minutes is generally fine. You can make it, I think you can go up to a certain amount of time, but I think you can go down to, I think, 5 minutes. So you can refresh every 5 minutes. So
Exactly.
whatever you need. So it works, remember, just these are great, but you can't get crazy with them, because if you go crazy with them, it'll lose its effectiveness. So.
And you made a good point, Dan, too. Why create a watch list with a warning or critical error of 200 things? If the watch list is meant for you to become more proactive and to get ahead of issues before they become problems, why would you say, wait, I want to wait until there's 200 to be critical in nature? It would take you a week to get through them all, right?
Yeah.
So those are the things, those are the kinds of questions and answers Dan's group would give you if you signed up for this UX1 training. What's best practice, right? How do you do change management? Does Tom create a watch list and query right in production? No. There's ways you should do it and follow the change management process. So there's bigger considerations. Dan and I are just scratching the surface for you. Anything else?
Yeah, there's more here. I'm just trying to look one up right now because I'm trying to see something.
Gotcha.
Back to
Well,
work. Yeah, I've never done for.
I'm curious to see if, do you see the questions on your screen when I open it up too?
I can. Yeah.
Well, do you see my question pane, or do you just see the question and answer
I
slide?
see the question in general. No, I don't see you. Okay, so I've got here. Oh, I don't see. Yeah, I don't have a watch list on there either, Lori. On the submitted job reports, there's not a watch list one there. So I wonder why. You can't do a watch list for submitted jobs, work submitted jobs. How about that?
Correct. But you can use the work submitted job carousel to see, if they're blue, green, or red, and understand if they execute, fail, or not. You know.
I guess you're right. Sorry about that, Laura. You're right. I've never went in there to look for one, so there you go. Okay, the question about can you email, once it reaches the threshold stage, can you email to a group of people?
That's a notification through Orchestrator.
It's something we're going to talk about in the future weeks. Yeah, the Orchestrator, when we get to that, it's a notification, certainly. You can actually take that key event and send the email to anyone you want.
And that's when Tom talked about automation and machine intelligence. That's Orchestrator. If this event happens, i.e. a watch list hits X, send a notification to Dan and Tom, right?
That's very cool. Well, that's great, everybody. Thank you. This is great.
So I think that's it, right?
I think so. Performance. Moriori.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. There are UDOs in 9228. There are some out there. Yes, indeed.
Yes, not necessarily that full list,
Right,
but there are.
Watch list and general revisions either don't have. Okay, there's a couple places. I did not know. I didn't really actually ever look in submitted jobs, honestly, to do a watch list. But yeah, you're right. Okay, otherwise, I think we got all the questions. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day, and please stay safe.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tom. Good job.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks, Brooke.
Thanks, Brooke.
Thanks, guys.